歡迎大家收睇特備節目。今日我哋好高興咧，就係梁錦祥教授翻嚟啦，就喺呢個周遊列國之後翻嚟啦。亦都佢帶咗朋友Dr. Sara 過嚟。咁Dr. Sara 咧就係梁錦祥教授嘅學生。OK. So when now we switch to English because Dr. Sara is from United Kingdom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would you mind to do a bit of introduction of yourself to our audience?
Hello, yes, I'm Dr. Sara Pugh, and I am a biochemist and geneticist. That was my degree. Then I did a PhD in molecular mechanisms and biophysics, and my PhD was on protein folding. So this relates to Alzheimer's, dementia, certain diseases where amyloid protein builds up in the body. After that, I did a postdoc on statins, hearts, and cholesterol, and many people have heard of this. I then went my own way and became a movement teacher, and that's what introduced me into holistic medicine. So I come from both sides, the holistic and the hard science side. I did many things relating to holistic health, and my latest qualification is something called a board certification in quantum biology. And this is a bona fide area of science with a lot of activity going on now. And I'm here with my Professor Leong, because I'm also very interested in movement, Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, and I'm interested in combining the yin-yang of the East and the West. And I also like to seek truths and absolute truths by understanding both the methodology and putting it into practice, but also making sure that there is data or papers about it.
Wow, so many difficult terminologies. I'm more confused.
Yeah.
What is quantum biology and so many different names from biology. But would you mind to tell me, to our audience, how do you get to know Professor Leong?
I went to a conference in Prague, and it was about alchemy and zero-point tech, which is a side of physics which is very interesting. And we visited a power plant run by Dr. Jan Rack, who was ex-CERN scientist. And I met a man there called Johan, and he was doing some unusual movements, and I asked him, "What are you doing?" So he showed me a video of Professor Leong, and because I'm very interested in anti-aging, medicine, human performance, and things like that, I saw this video of Professor Leong, first of all demonstrating the iron body and the iron throat. So I thought, oh wow, he didn't even bruise. Then it was demonstrations of martial arts, things like the power and the Fajing and the inch punch. Then Professor Leong began talking, and he was extremely logical, very medical, very good English, very easy to understand. And he then began to explain about the ancient Chinese methodology, about yin-yang, and then he went in to explain about his spontaneous reactions, which is again something I'm very interested in, the power of the subconscious mind. And I'm very interested in EMF, as in Wi-Fi and things like that, which we know is harmful, but also humans emit our own healing EMF. So Professor Leong demonstrated some quite unusual work where patients became what we'd call the five animals and went into spontaneous. But what was very dramatic was this healed a wide range of diseases, ranging from drug addiction to depression and cancer. And he has 30 years of medical data. So straight away I was already interested, because we had lots of things in common, understanding ancients, because I'm very interested in Western ancient traditions, and I don't know anything or much yet about China and Chinese ancient methodology. Then Professor was very medical, which is very important to me because it's proof. And after that, I contacted Nancy Wong and said I wanted to come and learn from Professor, and that was in October last year. And then ever since, I've been learning the movements, because I like to start everything right at the beginning, learn properly, learn the basics. And also I'm very much into the mind-body. So this idea of internal Taoist medicine and learning the correct movements for medical and for martial ticked a lot of boxes for me. And then with Professor Leong's book and teaching, I was able to piece together bits of Western science that I wasn't very good at understanding, and linking up the 5 elements in Chinese methodology to how I view the 5 elements in nature, both inside the person and outside. Then the 3 treasures of the human body and the Dantian, which are the medical areas, that very much appeal to me, because it's making these hormones, which is sort of biochemical energy in medicine. So it was obviously a very good match. It was exactly what I was looking for. Then I decided I'd like to do an experiment using Western testing methods, from blood tests, saliva, MRIs, DNA methylation, a lot more, to test on myself originally an N=1, to see how long does it take for me to get measurable benefits, such as more blood, all sorts of different things, less stress. I could maybe talk about the experiment later. So again, I'm collecting my own data using just Professor Leong's methodology, using Western methods, because even all over the world, people understand basic blood tests. And also, if they don't, I can easily explain, because I'm very respectful of TCM and all the methodology behind all those diagnoses, but I'm not qualified in that. I only do what I know. And so far, I've found it to be extremely compatible with my way of thinking. And already, even when I began my experiment, just in a month or 6 weeks, I already saw results that I could show to people. But then within my own body, I felt a big difference. And now I'm exploring more into the spontaneous or the mind side, but the body side and the biochemistry side's already hugely impressed me. So I'm in, and I must have loved it that much that I've come all the way to Hong Kong and then to China to learn more.
Oh, of course. Do you know that Professor Leong is a Kung Fu master?
Oh yes, I know. The thing is, I'd run away from Professor even if he's 74, because I've seen everything, and also I have enough knowledge of martial arts, because I started when I was 11 to know to just run away from Professor. But to learn, I have to basically start all over again, because I did things like Thai boxing, karate, too much tensing, and I've had to unlearn and then relearn all over again. But yes, I know he's more than a kung fu master, and also I know about his background and his family, because we went to the Hong Kong Cultural Museum yesterday, and there was a picture, or there should have been a picture, or used to be, of his mother in the opera school.
Yeah.
So yes, and I know about his links to Bruce Lee's family and everything.
Oh,
like that.
I also have linked with Bruce Lee lineage.
Are you a kung fu master as well?
Yes.
No. I do Wing Chun, and my grand teacher in Wing Chun was Bruce Lee's teacher.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So do you know Professor Leong used to be a bouncer at in front of the bar?
Oh yes, he told me yesterday, because also he once got stabbed in the leg when he went. There's all sorts of stories. So that's the thing. I very much respect him, because I'm the same. You can learn martial arts and do it in a film or in your living room, but it still has to be. It has to actually work.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm sure he's got even more stories about the bouncer days.
But let's talk about Kung Fu later. But
yes.
First of all, could you explain what is quantum biology to our audience?
Okay, for Western quantum biology, we start off by just saying it's changing biology without using drugs or surgery, because a lot of Western medicine basically is prescribing medicines or surgery. So quantum biology, one of the methods we can do this is using light. We can go into this a bit later, because light powers a huge amount of biological signals, and the light-dark cycle is one of the biggest yin-yangs of life on this planet. We can't survive without the dark or the sun or the light. Then also it's very important to consider water in quantum biology, because we're 70% water, and we'll talk about mitochondria a bit later. They make water for us, and there's a very important scientist called Dr. Gilbert Ling, who passed away at about 101 very recently, and he was the one that pretty much proved, he was a genius, that water is what powers the body and light, and it's not sort of other energy. So we have this water battery in the body. So this is again, why do we have all this water? And really understanding why dehydration is way more than just drinking water in a glass. Then we also have magnetism for quantum biology, because we live in a magnetic field, which is declining. And also there's lots of magnetic molecules in the body, like oxygen's paramagnetic, and we would die without oxygen. Hemoglobin in our blood, that's magnetic. And in the mitochondria, there's a little motor that spins called the ATPase, and ATP is another form of energy. So this is back to, there are many, many different kinds of energy in the body. And I don't know what they all are, but I know what some of them are. And then also we have to consider the body as the body electric, which would be, Roberto Becker is a very famous for, and Albert St. Georgi is another famous scientist talking about how we're bioelectric. So that's another way to look at the body. So rather than looking at things just as drugs or outside medicine, we're basically looking at the body through a biophysical lens. A lot of people have come across this already, because people know about red light panels, which I can't say I'm a big fan of, but that's what introduces people to the power of light. But then when it comes to very basics of quantum biology, all of the ancient traditions say about seeing the sunrise, getting outside enough, and modern day people, they don't realize that light is a drug and artificial lighting is a huge health risk. But we're going to talk a bit later maybe about different colors of light and what they do. The other way people would describe quantum biology is applying quantum mechanics to biology. So you can look at this as particles, for example, looking what do electrons do, protons, things like deuterium, which is a heavy hydrogen. But also there's other science who look purely as the body as electromagnetic waves, as well as things like scalar or longitudinal waves. So it's a completely different paradigm. And I just say to people, it's to stop thinking of themselves as just a lump of meat. And some people will also add in consciousness as quantum biology, about how we have this important connection to, we would say, just the heavenly chi and the earth chi. I would just say grounding or magnetism and the connection to the sun and outside. And from doing this for a great many years, I've seen dramatic improvements in people's health. So I've kept it quite simple and basic, so people can get a flavour of what this might be. But also a lot of people are now saying that light and water and things like magnetism will be the medicines of the future. And the most important thing about it of all, it's free to go outside. And then this is important when I consider why I like Professor Leong's work so much, that by correct training, which you just have to put time in and teaching, we can emit our own energy and circulate our chi. And it's a way to be independent and take our health in our own hands, because unfortunately nowadays we have many, many health problems, and I've lost faith in Western medicine I'd had a long time ago. And having tools that we can do to look after our own health and be our own saviour, I think is very important in modern society.
What you talk about was very scientific, Western medicine. But in Chinese culture, especially in the early 20th century, many people regarded Chinese medicine as superstition. Mm-hmm. So what do you find in the Western medicine or the scientific medicine right now that is in common with the traditional Chinese medicine?
Do you mean the internal or the external? Because if we talk about consciousness, there is actually science that can describe quite accurately human consciousness, and many human things we'd call paranormal that's actually just science, including Professor Leong's work. So maybe, Professor, you want to talk here, because I'm not saying that there's not consciousness greater than our own. I'm just not versed enough in what the traditional Chinese thinking of spirits and things was. I know what the Western one is, but nowadays there are people who can tell you using physics how action at a distance or telepathy or remote viewing and things like that works. But then it might be for Professor Leong to help with this answer, because I'm just not familiar with all of the beliefs of Chinese people.
Actually, I'm not talking about the traditional Chinese suspicion, because we're not interested in that kind of thing. What we want to know is that right now we still have Chinese medicine practice in Hong Kong, and Professor Leong was doing some kind of traditional Chinese medicine. Is there any common elements among these two different systems?
Oh, massively, because if the body is bioelectric and Western medicine doesn't want to accept that, when we think about things like melanin, which is a semiconductor, and then DHA, which is also a semiconductor, it's an omega-3 that can turn light into current and back into light again. This now links into how the meridians are energy channels, and some people would describe them as light channels, but light's just energy, and light's just electricity and magnetism. Then it's back to the torus, the idea of what the universe is made out of. And just because you can't see a meridian in a dead person, it doesn't mean it's not there. And it would be in line with the things like implosion and how Westerners think about what the fabric of the universe is, and energy continuously flowing, that if you block a torus, that will be like a meridian being blocked, and it can't, we would call it dissipating energy, because biologically we're dissipative structures. We have to continuously deal with or dissipate energy. So this comes into when I've studied Professor Leong's work about what is a meridian, and when you have a blockage, the torus can't turn itself inside out anymore, so it would be like a pressure cooker that builds up. And this is very much in line with the forward-thinking Western scientists, which Western medicine just thinks that's a load of rubbish, but they've been at this for ages, including Jan Rak, I mentioned right at the beginning. He's an ex-CERN scientist. He's completely on board with this idea of electricity may even be alive, and 100% electricity powers us, but that would tie in with what part of qi is, and how the flow of qi is important. Then I mentioned water is absolutely critical, and I could talk about water forever, but that's one of the key elements in Chinese medicine about flow and stagnation.
Yeah. But we don't see any qi in our body. How can you prove it to me that there is qi in our body?
I think it depends on there's so many different kinds of medical devices out, and they more and more come out every day. So you can infer this idea of electricity, because biochemists in the West have known a very long time about mitochondria and about membrane potential and about bioelectricity. And we've got numerous ways we can measure electric potential. Also, we know that biological organisms emit light or photons, and they use light to communicate. With qi, because nobody can definitively say exactly what qi is, we have ideas. It could be solitons, light, magnetism, infrared, which we can easily detect and know about. So when it comes to, I can't prove any qi, because nobody knows exactly what qi is, how can you find something you don't know exactly what it is? And this is the big problem in science, that scientists don't want to believe in something because they don't have a machine to detect it, and they don't want to make a machine because it's going to go against the dogma of pharmaceutical industries, because it's in the best interest of pharmaceutical industries to keep the biochemistry paradigm going. Once we start to switch paradigms into biophysics and how light and everything I've described is medicine, and this is not just me inventing things, the ancients knew all of this. We've got other forces wishing to suppress science. When it comes into more of TCM medicine, again, I'm just learning, but I would say there's a lot of parallels in TCM, whether we want to think about the internal side or the herbal side. And I'm not qualified to talk about TCM, so I think Professor Leong should answer the question here.
TCM is traditional Chinese medicine. Okay, I can tell you I know what qi is because I can feel it from Professor Leong.
Yeah.
Every time I spar with him, I can feel the qi in his body. So, Professor Leong, can you explain what qi is to our audience in Cantonese or in English, whatever?
Yeah, I didn't want to say that because I also can feel and sense the qi. I didn't know what level this podcast is.
If you spar with him, you can feel the qi.
Oh, I can feel the qi from here. Yeah.
I think if we look it through just different languages, right? Yeah. So obviously the ancient Chinese just used the word qi for many, many thousands of years. But I think if we draw parallels to today's science, it's just quantum. So if it's energy, isn't it? Energy now, the hadrons colliders already smashed all the particles and the subatomic particle. So obviously, if you look at our central nervous system and all the peripheral nervous system, there are electromagnetic fields, and obviously electrics, energy, that's qi. And then when we're exercising, there's muscular skeletal energy. So they can say that that's also muscular energy qi. And then you're talking about our Naidan, the internal, natural body medicine. So we can call it the biosynthetic endocrinal energy. So I think, just qi is a collective term for, in Lao Tzu, we're talking about metaphysics and things that you don't see it, you don't touch it, but is there. So I think, like you don't see it, but something is there. I think it's just molecule. If you look at it from particle point of view. So I think it would be more, obviously the scientific mind person, people will accept that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get more specific. Can you tell me why people get sick? Why people get sick?
Very basic, just the less life force, qi or redox, as we'd call it, you have, the sicker the plant, the animal or the human. And because there's many components to what builds up life force, I would just say in the simplest form, and everybody agrees on that, that causes illness. There's obviously many other layers, but that, in very simple terms, is agreeable across all cultures.
Why is mitochondria is so important to our health?
Because if we think about, we would say as above and so below, and in Chinese methodology, it's the microcosm and macrocosm in the human, that the mitochondria, first of all, are like a little, in very simple terms, like a battery inside our cells, but they also can emit light, and they can make electricity, but they can emit light brighter than the sun. So we've got our own little sun inside us. They make water, like I said, but the water they make is special. It's very low in deuterium, so it's light water. So it's almost like they're bathing in an ocean. So there we go, we've got the water component. They also make ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. So this is an important form of energy. They make hormones. They make and control free radicals, which is either for killing old mitochondria or for communicating with things like the immune system. The other thing that's important about them is this water that I mentioned, and how we're a water battery, because it absorbs light, and also water is very important for conveying information. And from Western studies, about 85% of chronic disease is linked to malfunctioning mitochondria, and we've known about them for a long time. They also make heat, and if they are, say if somebody really overheated, if we get into spontaneous human combustion, there's other things that can cause it, but they would be part of the equation. So they're like this little microprocessor inside us. And because there's so many of them in a cell, we've got more mitochondrial DNA than we've got our own human DNA, because we've only got one nucleus, and then there could be 100 or 1,000 mitochondria in that cell, so their DNA outnumbers us. Also, they're a relic of bacteria, and people have heard about the gut microbiome, which is very important for health. So when it comes to a human, if we look at it through a Western lens and a microbiology lens, we're something like 5 bacterial cells to 1 human cell. So without our little microprocessors, water maker, little sun inside us, power pack, that's sort of one way in which we could work out that we need them for health. Also, if we just look at simple biochemistry, if you give somebody cyanide, that blocks one of the respiratory chains in the mitochondria where the electrons flow, because electrons flows down, and everybody knows if you take cyanide, that'll kill you, and it directly targets the mitochondria. So they're obviously very important in life and death. And then barbiturates also inhibit complex 1, which is part of this chain of electrons or electricity in the mitochondria. And we know too many barbiturates causes death. So they're definitely linked into why we're alive, but still there's sort of things which I don't understand yet, but I just know the mitochondria from a Western perspective are something that we like to study a lot, and this is across conventional biochemistry and then more fringe and sort of quantum biology. Quantum biology has a huge emphasis on studying mitochondria, and there's different camps of people that call themselves quantum biologists, and they're all right, and they all pretty much focus on the mitochondria.
What is your recommendation for improving our health in our diets? What kind of food that we need in order to improve our health?
Okay, from my general perspective, it's about eating seasonal and local produce that's as fresh as possible, that's not been messed about with. So in the UK, we have our own plants and things which grow at a certain time of year, and we have lots of grass, so we have lots of cows, and we live on an island, so we have lots of fish. China's a much more vast country with a bigger selection of fruits and vegetables. So it would be about eating what's seasonal and local and close and not messed about with. And also just in simple terms about food, all of the ancients always describe how fasting can be important, or just simply not overeating and only filling your stomach to 70%. And I think that's in agreement with TCM. So it's just keeping it very simple. That's a whole other subject of people and food addiction and processed food and things like that. And then also the light environment people are in influences their appetite, because blue light affects people's blood sugar and cortisol, so they get more stressed and eat things they shouldn't. And there's lots of studies about people that don't sleep properly having things like insulin resistance or diabetes or obesity or depression. So activities of watching too much television and being on the computer and then eating takeaway food at night, obviously a recipe for bad health, but this is in modern medicine but also traditional medicine, and that's just keeping it very, very simple. Then I'm starting to learn about TCM and different foods, so I'm fully aware that to improve what I eat in my home, I can then look at through a TCM lens to choose meats and vegetables and fruits that's very specific to my constitution. So that excited me a lot, because now I've got my own way of eating which matches where I live, which is the UK, and I've described the kind of foods there. Now I can apply a TCM lens and get even more out of my choices of foods to improve things I need to improve inside where I've got imbalances in meridians. I'm very young and I have other imbalances, but I'm going to work with my friend and colleague Nancy Wong to make a special way of eating while I'm in China exactly for me, and then just stick to it and do measurements and study it and see how it works. So that would how I would link the two, the West and the East, that definitely people in the West can eat their own fruit and vegetables and animals, but then using a TCM lens, which I think is global for the person, would work in any country.
Just to remind you that we have so many good food in Hong Kong.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, try to taste some very good.
What do you recommend? I found a shop and there was about 100 durian. I love durian.
Ask Professor Leong.
Yeah, and also I really like the pig's feet here, because
Pig's feet? My God.
Professor Leong mentioned movement and qi and collagen in our bodies. When we move, collagen's piezoelectric, so it makes its own electrons and qis. And then people buy all of these stupid collagen powders, whereas if people ate a duck's paw or a pig foot or a pig knuckle.
技術人員你嗰度紅色盒你拎過嚟啊！show you something 紅色盒嗰度，係啦，呢度你拎過嚟嚇。Okay, let me show you. Okay.
Oh wow.
Do you know what is it? What is this? Ginseng.
Ginseng. Oh yes. Yeah. Which kind of ginseng? Because there's so many different sorts.
Yeah, from Korea.
Yeah, Korean ginseng.
From Korea. Okay.
Yes.
Taste some after the program.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm very fascinated and respectful of Chinese herbs, but I think it's really important that somebody probably
ask Professor Leong.
Yes.
He has a friend who is an expert in this area.
Oh,
yes.
Professor Leong.
Yeah.
We're going to meet up Professor Leong tomorrow. We go up to the Guangxi.
Actually, it is something about Chinese alchemy.
Oh yeah, that's even more exciting to me. But I think there's a huge amount of value in all the Chinese herbs, because as Professor taught me that millions of Chinese died over many thousands of years to make this tradition methodology, and when you look at the herbs through a biochemistry Western lens, a lot of the properties are actually biochemically valid, but there's so many plants that some of them I've got no idea about.
Actually, there was a Nobel Prize winner about a decade ago from China who learned the medicine from about a Taoist monk in fourth century. So Taoism actually has a lot of knowledge about medical plants. But let's go to this topic later. But you talk about color and how the light affects our health.
Okay.
Artificial light.
Okay, shall I start with going just through natural light? Because with the sunrise that everyone's seen, that's a yin-yang of a balance of red and blue light together and violet to set our clocks in the body, the timing, the circadian rhythm, which the Chinese actually discovered 2,000 years ago. What Western people think it was in 1972 but it wasn't. So that's very important for our timing. And if our timing's off in the body, all the biochemistry is not in sync. Then after that, we've got ultraviolet light, and this is very important. This is natural ultraviolet for making things like dopamine, serotonin, endocannabinoids, melanin, nitric oxide, and these are all natural body medicines that are light activated. And there's a lot of myths and bad science all around ultraviolet light, telling people it's dangerous and to be frightened of it. So that means people stay inside a lot. And when it comes to skin cancers, sure, if somebody just went out and got burnt over and over, it would be a problem. But the artificial light and people being inside also weakens the leptin-melanocortin pathway, which is really important, like a very important high-up hormone system. So it's the artificial light and then people just going out and getting burnt, which is a sort of skin cancer risk. So you can't blame the sun, which is sort of the giver of light. We have to think, what other kind of light have we added in that's weakening people? Then we've got the ultraviolet B light, which comes a bit later for making vitamin D. And there's numerous studies, hundreds of them showing how low vitamin D levels are linked to all-cause mortality, cancer, all sorts of things. So it's not just about the artificial light being a problem. It's people not going out into the natural light. And there's all these different colours of light that have different functions in the body key to health. And it's only very recently that we've started to stay inside all the time, because when all of the Chinese medicine and methodology was invented, the people would have been outside in natural light. They would have not had LEDs, screens, Wi-Fi. So that's where sort of my work comes in, is to say all of the traditional medicine is great. We've got this new big problem of all of the EMFs, which is just invisible light and artificial light. So the problem with artificial blue light is, first of all, in the daytime, it raises blood sugar and cortisol. And a lot of people, we have a big diabetes epidemic. I know I think according to a Chinese professor, there are 12 different kinds of type 2 diabetes. And it's not just to do with food, but the blue light definitely contributes to it. It also lowers people's dopamine levels, which means they're more prone to addictions, more likely to have ADHD. Then the other thing with the blue light, it damages retinol, which is in the eye. So a lot of people now have glasses and eye problems much earlier, but there's lots of things people can do to protect the eyes from screens and things, changing the colour. And then at night, the artificial blue light inhibits the pineal melatonin production.
Yeah.
Yes, because the mitochondria make melatonin as well, which a lot of people don't know, but that's for them, so they can constantly repair themselves. But the pineal melatonin, the artificial blue light at night will stop people making that, so then they don't sleep properly. Because even if we have to live in this quite toxic world, if we can sleep, we have a very good chance of regenerating. And then on the subject of spontaneous and other things, that's almost like having sleep in the daytime, because when I've measured it, people have gone into what we would describe a healing state in the day, but still we really need to sleep at night as well. So that's why there's it is actually true that the wrong light can cause weight gain and obesity. And the idea for people that light could make them fat or thin completely dumbfounds them. But then I mentioned before, there's a very important hormone called leptin that controls metabolism and energy usage in the body, as well as bone density, the immune system, and fertility. And leptin is very sensitive to artificial blue light, but leptin, to function properly with melanin, needs the sunrise.
How to spell it? Latin.
Leptin.
How to spell it?
Leptin.
Leptin. Okay, leptin.
Yeah, leptin.
Yeah.
So it's come up there with ghrelin as well. So people have heard of that. So that's a hunger hormone.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, with leptin, they discovered in 1994 leptin, and some people saw maybe on the news there was these really fat mice, and then there was the really thin mice, and they thought, oh, we've solved the problem for obesity. So they tried to make a leptin drug, and it didn't work because they didn't know in 1994 that leptin is driven by light, and if people don't see the sunrise, get enough UV light, and have enough melanin, their leptin pathway is impaired. And also, if people then are in lots of blue light and artificial light at night, leptin has a partner called melanopsin that's triggered by blue light. The system then breaks down, and people's metabolism and energy production is very much impaired. So with leptin, back to talking about energy in the body and energy biochemistry, leptin's very important because it links light and magnetism and water into the chi equation, but it's still, we'd call it a hormone, but from a quantum perspective, it's actually an electromagnetic sensor because it doesn't see body fat. It basically measures chi. If we want to go back into what we were talking about before, that leptin is an electromagnetic energy sensor, and the way it works is when it senses you've got full of energy, not fat but energy, it tells the brain, the hypothalamus at night, oh, you don't need to eat so much tomorrow, it's safe to burn energy. So it's a very Western hormone, but I think it's one of the bridges into understanding chi and making people get interested in chi, and people like Professor Leong, who's very interested in making more chi using chi. And leptin, I think, is an interesting hormone but people of all cultures are like, oh, I'd like to have a better metabolism. I'd like to have a baby. I'm worried about my bone density. So I think it's just interesting to learn about. I like things that bridge more than one field of medicine, but also I like things that the general public can understand and be interested in.
Oh, I found it in Wikipedia that this is an obese protein. Okay.
Oh yes, it's called, yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't trust Wikipedia for science. Also, if any scientists get called a quack or a heretic in Wikipedia, they're somebody to follow. But yes, it's that's how people refer to it, as the fat hormone.
Fat hormone, okay.
But it's very interesting because they've tried to make a leptin drug, as Western scientists do. They just think, oh, let's make a drug for everything, and they don't understand that everything's a system. So if you look more deeply into the new research, it shows about the link into light.
Now, actually, Professor Leong has a patient who had a very serious skin problem, and he taught him Sungazing.
Oh yes, yes.
And
eat the sun, I call it. When you can actually, ancients used to at the sunrise eat the sun, and this is back to using it as food.
Yeah.
But maybe Professor Leong could talk about it.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Yes.
That case, the very serious skin problem.
Yeah. You met the patient.
Yeah, I met him.
Yeah. Andre Leong. Well, I can speak obviously only from the Chinese TCM. I can't speak on, the Western biochemical science because I'm not qualified on that field, but I'm qualified on the TCM side. There was this very ancient techniques of observing the sun, which obviously I've been practicing for a long time myself, and I taught my students. What I found quite interesting is, like Dr. Sara was saying, is the light that actually trigger. Now, I found in the old text about this thing called Tian, the heavenly eyes. And then even in the ancient Indian side, they have this third eyes. So when I was reading all the ancient texts, the Chinese texts, and then obviously I can then link up with the pineal glands. Because in the ancient Chinese text, it was teaching us that when we are training, we have to close the eyes. We have to close the eye. And that's where my interest come in. I said, why do we have to close the eyes? So from obviously 33 years of my clinical case study, what I found is actually controlling the opening and shutting of our pineal glands. And the pineal glands obviously secrete melatonin. So that's why when I was teaching in the Hong Kong University, when the Professor Chen was showing me that we have to, look after 4 insomnia patients, right? So I just open up the pineal glands, and within 10 seconds each one is just total shutdown, or what the term can be low, just like shut down the brain, shut down itself. Yeah. And then this person, and what he found, because I talked to him, all right, do not look in the sun in the daytime because it'll burn your retina. It's only in the morning and at nighttime. And then he followed my teaching, and then obviously what I was thinking about is, because I try to connect them of epilepsy, the spontaneous reactions on that, because if we look at some of the television program, they have warning there, flash photography, and then why? Because with flash photography, the flicking of the light, actually people just gone into epileptic attack if the patients are there. So that's why they're warning people that if you have epilepsy, try to avoid that. And that's where it took me into finding out that, okay, if that was the case, the blinking of it, I mean, is like a trickery. And then I was teaching the students, right, to look at the sun and to blink it from time to time, and it's just like a shutter, and it actually opened up the pineal glands and see, obviously melatonin come out, and the major melatonin come out, the rest of the hormones, or we call naidan, will come out. So the body start, shall we say, self-healing. So the whole thing is just energy of self-healing. So obviously the detail-wise, that's Dr. Sara can explain a little bit more on the Western side.
Oh, that's completely valid, because quantum biology and signaling all begins in the eye, because the master clock is in the suprachiasmatic nucleus is behind the eye, and then things like dopamine and things like that can get made in the eye, and then the triggers for whether it's leptin or things from the pituitary gland like thyroid, which and things like that are all via the eyes as well. So it's all actually validated with Western science. We were just a long way behind, and I completely agree that it should be sunrise and sunset. And the flicker rate of things like bad light bulbs, yes, it does trigger epilepsy and provoke bipolar, but for other people it's just very irritating, and we'd call it inflammation. Whereas the natural flicker rates, which we do with our eyes, that's just something I've just learned just now, but I completely agree with all of that. But that can all be validated with ophthalmology studies and other biochemical studies on signaling of light via the eye, because definitely the eye is the most important. We've got lots of photoreceptors on the skin as well, including there's ultraviolet receptors in the eye and on the skin. So if ultraviolet was so bad, why do we have receptors for it? And actually Vincent van Gogh could see in ultraviolet because he had his cataracts removed. That's why he paints in such huge colours, and insects see in ultraviolet as well. So that's all, I completely agree, and I've experienced things like that with people I've worked with and myself about using the eye to control the pineal gland.
Are you talking about this?
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And how do you explain that we have problems such as depression, bipolar? Is it because of our body or because of our consciousness?
Both, and biochemistry.
Biochemistry.
All of it, I think. I suppose with depression, from a Western point of view, there's lots of layers that it can be neuroinflammation or inflammation of the brain, because bad food and toxins can cause that. Then, of course, it's bad circadian rhythm, that if somebody's body clock is very out of sync, because bad body clock is just like having jet lag all the time, and people get quite anxious and depressed with jet lag. And then, of course, there's the more energy side, and there's a mindset, psychology side. So there's many, many layers to depression, but I think that's definitely something that lots of different people have tools to be able to help that. And I have my own thing I would use with somebody with depression, but Professor Leong also has a lot of experience in depression, and there's different levels of it. There's just sort of ordinary depression and people in the bed so depressed, but I think it's something that is curable for certain, and there are other practitioners and schools of thought that are successful with depression as well.
Okay, one last question. Which part of Professor Leong's teaching that you find most fascinating or most useful?
The most useful at the moment, that's a really difficult question to answer because deep down I really love martial arts and the Fajing just has completely captured me of what do I want to be able to do the soonest. And in order to learn the Fajing, I have to be able to relax completely, and I'm not very good at that. So it actually is very beneficial for me. But I think also I've experienced the spontaneous, and I know a lot about how if we try and sometimes if we try and analyze and fix ourselves, we can't do it. Whereas if you give the body permission to self-heal, that I don't heal anybody, it's allowing the body to do it itself. I think that's also something that excites me a lot. And there's also, I don't know him so well, and he's a very learned, complicated man. So maybe in a week there might be another surprise of his work.
He's not complicated.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just an ordinary man.
I don't know of his work.
Okay, but anyway.
All of it. I think also, I mean, I'm interested in anti-aging, and I read in his book about reactivating different things which animals can do.
That book?
The Chinese one? No, I've got the English one.
Oh, you got the English one. I haven't got the English one yet.
I don't know.
Did you put out the English one?
I've brought it. It's in my bag if you want to have a look. You can touch it, but you can't, open it. But people...
Never mind. I don't need it. But I can learn from Professor himself.
No, I haven't published it yet. That will be done. It's been 10 years, over 10 years I've written that. But because what I found was the old methods of teaching chalk and board is people can't really learn because I'm specializing in movements.
Yeah.
And you need, now with the technologies, with the 3Ds is very important. So I'd rather spend a lot of time doing the video lectures. So that's why I'll get back to the in the printing side of the English book.
But it is very difficult to translate the Chinese terminology into English. Because
part of it, some of them. That's why, obviously I'm still learning from Dr. Sara because, medicines now is so many different branches now, nobody can say that they know it all, so, and also from the Chinese side, we've got 5,000 years of records, and even like a drop of the ocean.
Yeah.
So we can just keep on exchanging. Now, the world is getting very smaller now. And I think that sooner or later we will have, that's why I call it the quantum medicine, because at the end of the day, we can then connecting, the Eastern medicine and the Western medicine for the sake of mankind.
Yeah. And quantum medicine and quantum biology, what a magnificent pair.
So
the word quantum gets used wrongly, but quantum actually means quanta, as in how much, which is quantized with light comes in a particular packet or amount. So technically it means how much, but then people have taken the word because it sounds nice, and basically it's sort of medicine that's I'm a waves mechanics physicist. Particles, yes, I understand, but I can explain things in waves, but it's both the same. It's anything subatomic that we can't see. And when it comes to electromagnetism and waves, all physicists accept that and are very interested in. And particles, all of these names like gluons and sometimes people invent a particle mathematically because they can't solve an equation. So if you invent a particle, then it solves a mathematical equation that wasn't right anyway. But with wave function, that's something that we've known about for a long time, and it's a bridge between electrical engineers and biologists and things like that.
The so-called wave-particle duality.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you very much for this excellent interview, and hope that you enjoy Hong Kong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.